ladies and gentlemen, podcast time with the BrickKicker, episode number 0002. And we are here with Rob Claus, director of commercial for the BrickKicker. And we were chatting with him last week's episode, about where he is and what got him to the point of being the first licensed inspector in the States. And we wanted to bring him back and talk a little bit about association. And when I say association, our industry is blessed or cursed, or whatever way you want to look at it, with a plethora of other voices and or organizations to follow. And Rob is a member of many of those, and I'm sure there's more out there, but once you start getting to 3 or 4, it's too much to maintain. Don't you think, Rob?
Oh, I do.
So, I mean, so we've got the American Association of Home Inspectors, otherwise known as ASHI. We've got the National Association of Certified Home Inspectors, or internachi. We've got the ccpia, the Certified Commercial
Property Inspectors Association.
Yep. And we've got some local affiliates that you belong to. And so the list goes on and on and on. And coming with your experience, like we were talking about last week, into this, I mean, is it overboard to have all these associations, or do you think it's actually being used as it was designed to? Are we getting value out of the associations?
Well, good question. If you go to
just
Facebook,
deep there,
yeah, thanks. Yeah, you didn't even put the ball in the tee for me, and you laid it on the ground. You're not even. That's a tough one to go after. If you go to Facebook, you'll
the land of too many.
Yeah, there's 1,000 associations, and that's not an exaggeration. And everybody's got an opinion, and frankly, opinions are there's an old phrase about that, but I have a better phrase. A wise woman in my life once said, "There's only one way to cut a cake. That's in half." And so you only got so much time in your day, and frankly, if you're a member of too many things, then are you really working? And so you gotta kind of compartmentalize. So I guess what I would like to do is to take your lead in and what we talked about, and kind of expand it a little bit for us. And I want to talk about each one of them and where they sit in our world. Is that fair?
Yeah,
awesome.
That's great.
Awesome. So the old dog in the pen is American Society of Home Inspectors, ASHI.
Mm-hmm.
ASHI was founded up on the Northeast, on the East Coast, of a group of 35 fledgling inspectors that really didn't know what they wanted to do, and wanted to form an association to kind of set a little bit of a standard of what is a home inspection. We're talking 47 years ago. And so as an industry, all of us home inspectors, all of us building inspectors, we're still new. So 47 years ago, this was really the wild, wild west. It was a whole bunch of tradesmen, engineers, school teachers, you name it, that were dabbling in this arena of home inspections, and started this group. And they really put forth pen to paper and wrote the very first standard of practice. So that's ASHI. And in doing that, they were the only dog in the pen, not the oldest, but the only one till about the mid-90s. when a home inspector and a slash realtor, because he did both in the Philadelphia area, saw, kind of didn't like where Ashi was going. And Ashi was always been very strong in lobbying to elevate the profession, and they still are, to elevate the profession to an industry, not just a profession. And so that's why they call them a society. And so they're up there, and they really didn't do much as far as daily education, as far as accreditation education. And so this individual, Nick Gromyko, saw this need to create another group. And he founded this group in Boulder, Colorado, called Internachi, or at that time it was NACHI, National Association of Certified Home Inspectors. And to be in his group, you basically had to take an online course. Imagine that. When your dial-up was working, and I think it was Netscape or Net Zero, and when that was working, you had to take a 30 question exam. And if you passed that 30 question exam, you were admitted into that association. Now, the benefit of that association was very interesting, because they were the first ones out there to really build online courses. And right now, and the beautiful thing about online courses is they're evergreen. And for your audience, it's evergreen means you create it one time and it lasts forever. And they have well over 100 different courses available for home inspectors to be better at our craft. And
and that's really, and we're at that stage in our industry all around us where there's a lot of those old dogs, they are a little bit more resistant to change or the evolution of technology. I could see where, Nick coming in the late 90s or early 90s, Ashi must have been, I don't know, maybe they were on their high horse and didn't find it to be worrisome. Was there any conflict of standards between the two organizations?
They're similar but different. There is, if you sat there and you made the chart, and I remember one time, years ago, before a seminar, I put all the standards on poster board, because again, as we said last time, I'm old. And this goes, we had overhead projectors long before we had computer projectors and PowerPoint. So our thing is when I go speak, it'd be whiteboards and in easels and poster boards. And so I remember creating poster boards with Ashi on one side and internachi on the other. And I bet you they were 90 to 95% identical in the standards of practice.
Yeah.
And so the similarities really stopped about there. Internachi doesn't do anything in the arena of lobbying. So they have no voice in Washington, and they have no voice in state legislature. Where Ashi is very strong in Washington, Department of Housing and Urban Development, as well as really keeps their eye focused on state legislature. Internachi has always focused on education. And so when we talk about, are there too many associations? I don't believe so. If I don't have any problems being a member of both. I absolutely am.
Yeah.
And because I use one for one thing, and I use the other one for another thing, and I get my goals out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really at the end of the day what you need. You don't want to spend money frivolously. You don't, we don't need another 3 letters at the end of our name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I think they each have a purpose, and I think they each do their purpose well. But the challenge is not everybody believes that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that throw up the curtain right between them and say, "Oh no, you're that." It reminds me of Dr. Seuss and the book "The Star-Bellied Sneetches." And I have a star upon mine, and you don't, and then all of a sudden I want a star, and so then I go that, and I have a star, and then pretty soon nobody has stars, and pretty soon everybody has stars. Why don't we just all be good Sneetches? We'll all be good home inspectors. There's plenty for everybody.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's gotten away from that a little bit, and being from my own experience, you call yourself old. I don't think you're old by any means, but I do consider myself young in this industry, and I think the association is a great way for someone getting into this business to get out there and reach across the aisle and shake a hand and get to know others, because we're in the people business. But unfortunately, there's certain parts of these associations that become cliquey, and or there's always got to be a group of individuals that use these channels or these associations to, be a distraction to their day-to-day, because they may not be busy enough, or they just want to belittle everybody. That's the unfortunate thing with these. But if you can get some good young individuals into these associations, it'll carry it forward, and there's tremendous value.
I don't disagree. Some of these, both of the associations have forums. You can ask questions, but when I see people that have commented on 500,000 comments, and like, oh, all right, are you a member since dawn of time? No,
Yeah.
I've been a member since 2014. I go, really? And so you've made 500,000 comments in 6 years. You're either sitting on the toilet every day for a long period of time, or you never leave your house.
Yeah.
But it's funny. You mentioned the CCPIA earlier,
Mm-hmm.
Certified Commercial Property Inspectors Association. Just this morning, I was making some calls to throughout the industry, and I happened to call a chapter president of one of the local associations here in town, or here in this area, of ashi, and I had to ask him some questions because I sit on a national task force for ashi, and he says, "Are we done with the questions, Rob?" I said, "Yeah." "So good. I got a question for you. I see you do a lot of commercial work." I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Did you just do this?" And he mentioned the high school that we happened to just inspect a couple weeks ago. I said, "Yeah." He says, "Wow, that had to have been fun." I said, "It was great." He says, "I too am trying to do commercial work." I said, "Yeah, awesome." I said, "You know what we really need? We really need another association." That was me talking. I believe very strongly in rising tide raises all boats.
Yeah.
And there's probably in the Chicago metropolitan area of our 7.4 million people, I think there's probably 30 to 50 quality inspection companies that do some form of commercial work. I said, one of the ways that we could probably double or triple our commercial work would be to band together and start a group. I mean, it could be just a breakfast group. It could be whatever you want to call it, so that we're all out there pulling the rope together to convince these commercial brokers that we are the more viable way to go versus them calling 5 contractors
Yeah.
to get the same job we do done, or
Yep.
for them to have to go elsewhere. And I said, we should ponder on that a little bit, and think about a plan so that we can all grow in this versus, okay, I'm going to beat my head up against the wall for 6 months to get something done when we're easier to work together. And he goes,
Yeah.
that's a very interesting thought. So maybe there's not enough associations, Andrew.
Maybe not, but that just goes to, not being afraid to reach out to someone that normally might be your competition. Like you said, with Chicago being in excess of 7+ million people, I think there's plenty of pie for the taking. And then we just get better. And I guess it will really wean out, something like that would wean out those who are looking to just dabble in nickel and dime, or those that really want to make a difference.
You're right. I mean, this is where the ccpia, when they were founded, they're an adjunct, a right turn, or maybe left turn. I don't know how you want to look at it, but they're an adjunct of internachi. Where internachi had a standard of practice that they wrote for commercial. They call it the Commercial Standard of Practice, or ComSop. We kind of alluded to this in the last conversation we had, that there was a ASTM standard and a ComSop standard. And the ComSop is really written in a very easy conversational understanding that a commercial inspection shall do this. The commercial inspector shall do this. The commercial inspection does not do this, is not required to do that. And so it's very easy.
Yeah.
And you can print it. You can hand to somebody and say, do you have a question? where the ASTM standard is written in engineer speak.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, most CFOs or COOs or CEO assistants can't read that language.
Yeah.
And so the ccpia kind of jumped in and said, wait a minute, there's a lot of inspectors out there that want to take commercial to the next level. And so let's start an association with that. And so we joined them as a company immediately. The second we heard that we heard them that they were starting, we joined. And
now are they still in the building phase? Do they have? I know they got a pretty detailed website, but I mean, where are they at? And are they strictly just a collection of information right now? Or are they actually doing courses? What is your involvement with CCPIA, and where do we hope to see it go?
So they have a couple of online courses. They have a couple of online webinars that they've designed, and again, everything they do is evergreen.
Yeah.
And with commercial, unlike residential, commercial is very tactile, and you take your residential prerequisite in education and you blow it up to do commercial. Everything's bigger, everything's more robust, everything costs more than residential. So they've gone into live training a couple, 3 times a year, and they do 3-day courses, and if you didn't want to take theirs, most of the other courses that are around the country are 3-day courses to be commercially enabled. You're never going to be good at it. You're always practicing. But to be commercially enabled, it's a 3-day course. And they approached me, 2.5 years ago or so, and said, "Hey, Rob, would you like to help us out? Can you do some writing for us? Can you do some articles for us? Could you do some training for us?" And one of the first things they asked me was, "Can you help us write the curriculum for roofing and for the business portion of the course?" And so I authored their roofing course, and I authored their business course. The way I figured it, again, I'd rather have everybody doing good stuff, and then that makes us look the same, and you know, versus somebody out there doing something really bizarre and weird. And so we can compete with that.
Yeah, and I guess that's why it's more important than ever with associations on the commercial side, especially given that there's really not enforceable licensure in the commercial inspection side of the industry. So the association or affiliate by association is important, and that's why I think it's very important that more people take the opportunity to have a voice and just contribute, not belittle, not put everyone down, but actually make it better. I think that's what, you know, you say it around our office a lot. You know, we talk about it off and on. That was kind of what the beginning founders were looking at is how do we make something better? How do we make people better? And obviously with rising opportunity comes, you know, the bottom feeders when people come out of the woodwork, but that's what we're all about. And I think these associations do that. So,
well, I think it's funny. I got all upset one day. I had a client, and this is a third time use client. So first two times went great. Third time use, they called us up for a 42,000 square foot building, not too far from the office, so I don't have to worry about travel. So that's a cost I'm not going to put into my budget. It had a fairly sizable warehouse space and a 2-story office space in that. And so I put a very nice proposal together. Our proposals, for those listening, end up to be about 8 to 12 pages long. And they really spell out what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, what are our responsibilities, what are our clients' responsibilities, what's it going to cost, etc. And so I put this very thorough proposal together, and it was for about $3,800. Well, it was exactly $3,800 for this work on this building, and they booked the job. The day before the job, we got a call the office. The job was canceled because of price. Third time use client because of price. And so they wouldn't tell me what we lost the job for, but now I'm nerfed.
Yeah.
And so I took the listing sheet for that building, and we had the office staff, as you recall, cold call 30 inspection companies in our area, and wanted pricing for that building. And our pricing for that building went from $450 to $4,500 for that same building.
$450 to $4,500
for the same building. Wow. We were $3,800 for.
Wow.
And so that's where my brain just melts. And I just slumped in my chair going, okay, well, bless their heart. If they can do it for $450, and that doesn't even pay our insurance for the job.
So, yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, I guess in one sense you say, well, you get what you pay for, and it's not always good to be the most expensive. It's not always good to be the cheapest, but a lot of these guys aren't carrying insurance.
No.
And I'm not saying that to belittle or knock anybody that's out there. But again, carrying insurance, especially when you're dealing with these large commercial spaces or warehouse spaces, you've got to be insured. Otherwise, that could bury you if something were to slip up. So,
Oh, exactly. And we're lucky enough that you've got insurance for
yeah,
us. And I've always been told that we're insured up to anything I'm not afraid to bid.
yep,
and you alluded earlier with having zero licensure anywhere in this country, that then says, "Oh, go get on a plane and get it done."
Yep.
If I want to do Terminal 1 at O'Hare, let's go.
Yep.
And I'm not sure that I really want to tackle Terminal 1 at O'Hare. But if on some day I was not scared, or I read a spec sheet on what they're looking for, devil yes, let's go.
Yeah.
But we're insured where others might not be.
So what is and I ask myself this question, and I've written it down a few times, but then I keep re-asking, and it is, what is our goal, or what would a goal of an association like the ccpia, ashi, or nachi, or whatever, even an internal association within the BrickKicker family, for example, what would be the goal for us to say to the world? You need a commercial inspection, because you get that, oh, I'm going to open up a business. So we want to tell business owners, if you're planning on opening a business that requires brick and mortar, you might want to have the building looked at. So why would they go with an inspection firm versus a large architectural engineering firm? And I'm not asking you for the answer. I'm just saying, are the associations carrying conversation around that topic?
Well, it's funny. We have talked about this, and I stand back with this answer that I give so many other times. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is Widget Corp. The CEO of Widget Corp says, this building is too small. We need a bigger building. And so he calls a real estate broker that specializes in commercial, and they go out and find the building. So he goes back to the office, and he either goes to the Google machine and says commercial inspection, or building inspection, or he goes to his assistant or the CFO or the COO or the plant manager and says, we need to get this done. Or he goes to the broker and says, okay, now what? And the broker says, well, you need to get a building inspection. And so if the broker is in charge, then the broker is probably going to lean on their Rolodex of what we've done every time for the last 50 years.
Yep.
We get an engineer or an architect. And if the CFO or the COO or the CEO or the assistant is in charge, they're going to go to the Google machine. Yeah. The Google machine is our best ally, the search engine, because that has no bias, and we're able to be relevant there. Why we're relevant, why we're, in my opinion, so much better than the engineering firm, is because one phone call, our discipline and our knowledge takes care of the whole shooting match. If you go with the engineer, they become a project manager of the process. We've been, since the dawn of time, 47 years, from the beginning of the art of the home inspection process, a home inspector, now I'm going to classify myself as a building inspector. A building inspector has been taught to look at a structure as a system, and as components in that system, and as a total topic, where we're able to look at the entire building because we're free of a singular discipline. Where if you're an engineer, you're pigeonholed to your discipline. And now you become the project manager. So now you're going to bring a roofer in to do the roof. You're going to bring a plumber in to do the plumbing. You're going to bring an electrician in to do the electric. And you're going to do the structure. And then you're going to bring an HVAC person in to do the HVAC. And every one of them has an hourly cost. And so that hourly cost gets lumped in. And oh, by the way, you're an engineering firm. You need to have billable hours. So now that acquisition, that 42,000 square foot building, might have a $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 inspection fee on that building. Remember, I said I was 3,800, and I was gonna be able to go through that building in about 3 to 4 hours, and have everything done, and have it completely identified, and answer my questions, so that they can move on and move forward in the transaction intelligently, and produce them a really nice 30 to 70 page report. What did we do differently that the engineering firm could do? Probably nothing.
Yeah.
Because
at least for the context of what they would need the services for to begin with. I can understand if they've already purchased and had specifications for certain equipment or things like that, but
agreed. But that plumber that showed up to the inspection, isn't going to be wrenching on toilets.
No,
I'm not going to wrench on toilets. I'm going to be flushing toilets and checking them out. So that's where I say the best thing we could ever do is start changing the mentality and turning that bus around, so that now where we're at today is where home inspection was 47 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I would hope that the associations like the ccpia and or any newly produced local association would stand behind driving that to its members on a regular basis, because the members, that's how it's going to get out, is the members have to believe in it, and the members have to believe in one another to support it for it to gain traction, especially in today's world of, I mean, there's so many angles to everything now. So if we don't tackle it as a group, we're going to be putting a needle in a very large haystack. So hopefully the associations can look at it that way.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Wow, that's awesome. You know, when you look at associations from the context of what do you try to get out of it, and you know, some of them are better than others. Like you were saying, Internachi's got a great education platform. Ashi's got a great lobbyist platform. CCPI really being the frontier in the commercial side of things. You know, but all in all, the industry as a whole is aging. The leadership of these associations is aging, and that's not a bad thing. It's just, you know, if I could go back to my high school years, I'd be talking about this. I'd be getting high school. I wish I had representatives from these associations popping into high schools to talk about this as a viable industry, because it is. I mean, it really is a viable career path for a lot of young people. We talk about that a lot, and I think the associations could really jump in and consider that as well.
I wish they would. I mean, this has fed my family. This has put 2 kids in college for 31 years.
Yeah.
And you know, and hopefully another, you know, 31 to go. But it is. And as we said in the last call, or the last time we talked, is I didn't know this was out there. You know, when I was in college, you didn't know it was out there when you were in college.
Yeah.
But when we talked last time about licensure, a lot of these states have put the bar just slightly too high for those high school kids to come out. But, you know, most of these states require you to be 21 years old to get a license.
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, I go back to when I was 24 years old, working for the BrickKicker, doing the BrickKicker inspections as I was, and I'd show up to those jobs, and my client would be getting out of their Cadillac, and I'm getting out of my Nissan pickup truck, and they look at me going, "Wow, when's your dad getting here?" Yeah, I know you've heard that.
Oh yeah.
When's your dad getting here? Boy, you sounded older on the phone. Oh, I didn't answer the phone. The boss did. And
Yep.
then I would do, well, my dad's not planning on being here. He's 70 miles away. I can call him, but he's a lot more expensive an hour than I am.
Yeah.
And so it took some time. And in 1990, 1991, for the public to embrace that somebody 24 years old knows homes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's 2020 today. I don't believe that stereotype exists anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's no different than those proclaimed doctors, because they went and they Googled what causes a headache, and WebMD says take an aspirin.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know, so anybody could certainly understand a home. So you know, when people say it's an age thing, you should, you know, you're too young to know homes, and I get it. I still get it, and I'm doing this 8 years now, and I still get asked, "How old are you?" It shouldn't have nothing to do with it, because information's flowing faster now than it's ever been before, and people are YouTubing things and or Google searching and or just retaining information more. So, not to mention, that's the added benefit of these associations, is the ongoing education and learning. So, you know, if someone young say, "Hey, I'm a part of it," that provides the resources and training and standards and things like that. So then it shouldn't be an argument.
And we've talked about this. I love going to the national conferences, and I've spoke at many of them. I can't even count how many times I've spoken at one of the various national association or national conferences that have been out there in the country. But when I go as an attendee, which I try to do every year to one of them, my goal, if there's an hour-long session, I think it's a victory if I get 10 minutes of new content.
Yeah.
And that's my goal. 10 minutes of new content. I'm not saying that I'm the smartest guy in the world, because I am not. But I've heard so many of these things before that if a presenter can give me 10 minutes new, then I consider that to have been a very worthwhile spend of my time, because I am in a room of my peers, and I am in a room where I learn things, and I still am learning daily.
Yeah.
From everything we do. And so again, and we didn't even talk about this, but I think we're finally at the stage in 2020 that this is not gender biased either.
No, it certainly isn't. I've seen that the ashi conference this last year in New Orleans. I was rather impressed to see the group of women that were there representing the industry and stepping in, and it's absolutely a job that's very fitting for a woman, because you know they have that ability to understand and analyze complex situations and have great conversations. So that's great.
Well, and we're finally at the stage now that ashi has a female inspector, not only on their board of directors, but as part of the executive management.
That's awesome.
So we're absolutely moving forward and not backwards in this industry. It's just a matter of the bigger challenge that we're going to have is just to try to keep everybody from fighting, and that's never going to change. That's human nature. you can't, you can't put 5 different people in a room and expect there to be some form of constant. There's always going to be somebody that wants to have their voice be the loudest.
Yeah.
And okay, that's fine. But the whole idea is there's plenty of work out there for everybody. We don't need to fight. We don't need to bite ourselves in the back. And my favorite thing in the entire world is when another home inspector comes into our office and wants to sit down and have a cup of coffee and just talk about life.
Yeah.
Because that's my favorite part.
That's relationship building, and just building a coalition of those that believe in what we do.
Yep.
Which is exciting, and that's something I look forward to for the years to come. Is just to have more relationship to build upon, to be actively involved. Organizations such as this. I'd love to put our own. Together, and we'll save that topic for another podcast. I don't want to let all the cats out of the bag at once, but we've often talked about the benefit of education and or hands-on learning and things like that. So, the one thing that I've noticed with the industry in association is it's certainly making it in one sense, the associations are making it harder for the franchising model of our business. But then on the other hand, it's almost kind of stepping in as an additional resource. Do you see anything with our franchise model or the franchising model in our industry as a whole in terms of association?
Well, that's really what internachi's done more than anything else is if you become a member of them, all that education's there. Mm-hmm. And they also have departments in there. Now Ashi does too, that help you with logo creation and flyer creation and all those things that a franchise always did. But what they both lack, is that personal or interpersonal mentoring and singular goal creation.
Yeah.
In other words, okay, you join internachi, they don't care if you succeed or don't succeed. You paid your membership, you get what you want to get, and you move on.
Yeah.
But what a franchise does provide is that goal, that goal effort that we want them to succeed. And we'll give you the playbook, and you can call us, and we're going to always give you good sound advice without a backbite or judgment.
Yeah.
And if you go to that outside source, no, they don't really have that vested care
mm-hmm.
for that individual. You pay your dues, great. If you close up next year, well, you paid your dues. So yeah. we'll get somebody else behind you. Mm-hmm. And frankly, there's only so many new ideas you can ever create in brochures. So at some point, your brochure looks like 5 others, and you just hope they're not in the same marketplace. Your business card looks like 10 others. You just hope you're not passing them out in the same marketplace. So I think the real thing that franchising has lost, which is because of licensure, is it's so costly to train new inspectors in licensed states.
Mm-hmm.
That a large association can defer that cost across 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 members.
Yeah.
A franchisor can only push that cost across 32 states.
Yep.
Or now it's 37 states.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it a little bit more difficult for a franchisor to be there. And so where the old days in '95 when we started franchising, we'd sit down in the conference room for 2 to 3 weeks, and we train somebody to be a home inspector. We teach them house, and they go back home and they are one.
Yeah.
You know, and they could use our training as their accreditation versus the other guy that just, or gal that printed a business card at the business card store, and because they didn't have any training at all. Well, nowadays that bar has been leveled. If you've got your license, you know, from your licensing entity, then you're just the same as that other person that took a $10,000 course, because the public doesn't care.
Yep.
Nobody cares. They just want to make sure that it got done by a licensed individual. They don't care whether that licensed individual has been doing it for a week and a half or 31 years. They need to move on to the next step.
Yeah. Yep. Then it gives them a sense that, hey, you're licensed. I'm assuming that you've gone through the training and the know-how that if you screw something up, I'm coming after you, essentially. I mean, so.
The real comedy is, Andrew, since licensing went into effect in ostensibly 2002 in Illinois, I've only been asked to produce my license twice. Twice.
It's just like when you turn 21, you look forward to getting carded, and you go to Vegas and you don't get carded.
Yes.
And you're all disappointed, like, damn it.
Yes. Or you're in the line at the grocery store with a 6-pack of beer and they card you and you go, thank you.
Yep.
Thank
exactly.
you. I'm 54. Thank you. He goes, no, we got to card everybody. Well, thanks for deflating me.
Yeah, exactly.
But you would think, given this industry and the amount of liability and the amount of responsibility that somebody would say, hey, let me see your license.
Yeah.
You know, you would think.
Nope.
But the comedy of it is there's only 2 licenses in Illinois that require you to display your license on your vehicle. You know what those are?
No, I would probably.
Roofer and plumber. That's it. A roofer and plumber has to have their license numbers on their vehicles.
Fascinating.
Whatever vehicle shows up to the property, it has to have a license number on it.
Wow.
And you know, so maybe they did something better than us because it just doesn't get asked. I mean, we could bring anybody in, you know, if we wanted to. We would never do that. But anyway, it's an odd dichotomy of where we're at, you know, in society, where there's just this amount of unproven trust.
Mm-hmm.
that oh yeah, you are one. You know, I guess so. You know, you got a business card, you must be. You know, type of thing.
Yeah, and that's why it's just as important as ever to stand behind quality, stand behind putting out the right message as a company, and then sharing that in these associations. You know, and so hopefully, you know, as we conclude, you know, we've talked about associations and how they're related to our industry and some of the nuances that go with it, or the possibility of having more and what it could do. You know, it's just important. And if you like anything else, you get out of it what you put into it. And I couldn't be more proud of this particular industry that we're in. And I still see a great need for some opportunity at these associations to just enhance the overall camaraderie building, communication, and education. So
I agree.
Any wrap-up thoughts on any of that, Rob?
No. I say that very, very, very quickly.
Hmm.
No, I mean, I think as far as associations go, I think there's always going to be a need.
Yep.
We've always been positioned. We've always been part of it. We've always tried to be known. Our late co-founder of the business, Len Frankowiak, early on in my career, went to me and says, "Rob, join this, participate in it, and you're going to get out of it whatever you put into it. And if you're going to do it, do it. If you're not going to do it, then don't do it." And so I joined. I went to meetings. I became president. I became president again. I feel like I got more back out of it than I ever put into it. But I know I put in a lot of years of volunteering, and I still volunteer, and I still want to see them all grow, because at the end of the day, this industry puts food on the table of a lot of people, and
Yeah.
both in our company and across the country, and the more recognized and the better we can all be, then I just think we'll all be rewarded.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. It's always fun having these chats, and if time allowed, we could probably have more of these chats for a long period of time, because you love this industry and this business. We have some great stories to chat about, and it's just one of those good front porch or back deck, beer in your hand type of conversations that we could have. But you want to come back on another episode and talk safety, and I think our growing audience and listeners would be excited to hear about that. Nowadays you can't talk enough about it, and we always enjoy hearing from you, Rob.
Perfect. I look forward to coming back. Just let me know whenever you want me, and I'm here.
Awesome.
Of course, you do pay my.
All right, as always.
So.
Isn't that crazy? To think that this whole world is shut down and people's salaries are all messed up, and it's sunny out, and there's always someone on the other end that's saying, "All right, what are you going to do next?" And so, with that, I gotta tend to some payroll things myself, and we will be back next week talking about some safety here again with Rob, and we may have a few other surprise guests on the call with us as well. So stay tuned, and Rob, thank you as always, and have a great day.
You be safe.